I hope you're strapped in for another dose of lovely, beautiful 2006 $599 US nostalgia, because we're going to take a look at some PS3 ads in the form of paper brochures, pamphlets, holiday gaming buying guides. I've had these for a long time, and they're always so fascinating to look through because it was during a time when Sony was, launching and selling this thing, my favorite console, and something where it was such a unique, quirky, weird, and in many ways disastrous time for Sony and PlayStation history. So pay no mind to the prop out of focus PS3 and DualShock 3. That's simply there for some brief visual stimulus, because what we're really here for is this paper right here. So I've had these for a long time, and so these two are when the console came out. This is actually a year later, this holiday gaming guide right here. This was from the 2007 holiday season, so it'll be interesting to check that out later. But first, we'll start off with this one right here, which I'm trying to remember where this is from, because I have two of them. So I'm inclined to say that consoles, the very launch SKUs, came with this in the box, or maybe it was part of the PS3 kiosks, as something you can kind of pick up and walk away with. I don't really remember exactly. I think they were in the box when you bought the console itself, but either way, I'm sure these were, handed out at a number of events and things like that, which, it's just paper. You can print it out and send this thing off anywhere, and why wouldn't you? Because there is so much PlayStation 3 borderline propaganda inside this thing, and of course, it's really well known that during this particular cycle in North America, there was the Play Beyond ad campaign with the very avant-garde advertising. Really, it was like that everywhere. So also in the UK, This Is Living, the ad campaign there. This Is Living was also really strange as well, just a different kind of strange. But anyway, back to North America, they were using the White Room as sort of a basis for all those ads, and also a lot of the material was either the White Room stuff, or it was all black, right? It was the red lettering, the very iconic Spider-Man font, as people call it, but it's just a modified Mata font. MATA is the name of that font. But yeah, inside of this, I'm not joking. It cannot be overstated how much they were really laying this stuff on thick. Look at this. It says, beyond power, beyond limits, beyond evolution, beyond anything ever created in the world of gaming, lists the PlayStation 3 system, and with it the chance to transcend the concept of what traditional gameplay is supposed to be. A chance for gamers worldwide to finally play beyond. Thank Christ, Sony, I have not lived until you launched this console. Thankfully, we have them around now. The next page, it doesn't get much. They don't really pull back here, so it says if it can't do it, it probably shouldn't be done. And this was also when the actual trademark for PlayStation 3, because something I think most people understand, the right way to spell PlayStation as a capital P, capital S. But no, PlayStation 3 as a trademark on paper was all in capital letters. They yell it every single time. They actually changed that back to the capital P, capital S with the 2009 entire redesign and the new ad campaign, the Slim console, all that stuff. But for the time being, we're yelling PlayStation 3. I won't do that every single time, though. It does say the PlayStation 3 system will not only change the way you experience gaming entertainment, it will become the very cornerstone of your entire entertainment experience. So, once again, thank you so much, Sony, for being in my life. I'm sure you're going to cook me some Gordon Ramsay-type meals, maybe some, a Wellington? The Wellington always looks like a pain in the ass to make. I'm sure a PS3 was trying to do that with its George Foreman style layout. That, or maybe it was just trying to bear my children, but entertainment beyond games. So, this is the second page, right? And we're not talking about games just yet, more so beyond games. This very much was kind of an Xbox One moment, the very sort of, selling the PS3 was a full picture kind of thing for Sony, as we saw with some of the Ken Kutaragi quotes that I pulled out for the PlayStation 3 documentary that I did. That's one of my favorite videos I've ever done, because it's about this machine, and they were trying to sell this thing as a full package kind of thing. It was not just the video games, it was also the Blu-ray, it was the multimedia functionality, it was the always online connectivity, the PS3 and PSP connectivity, also backwards compatibility, which is on the third page here. This was certainly a different time, but they want to let people know that, hey, right away you can play your favorite PlayStation and PlayStation 2 games. And to this day, original 60 and 20 gigabyte model PlayStation 3s are, you know, a console that can play over 10,000 games physically, which is nutty. It's a beautiful thing. It's something that is still, to this day, I think, not beaten technically. And there's like a little asterisk there, which, you know, you go down, it's like, oh, well, not all these titles may not perform the way that they originally performed on those original consoles. But moving on, the 6-axis, this is the same thing here. So 6-axis, the trademark is all in capital letters, but, you know, this is where no rumble, so they're really trying to sell the whole motion thing. It senses your every move. The power is here. The question is, can you control it? This thing will likely be flying around everywhere, all over your living room, probably breaking TVs, which didn't actually happen. I'm sure Sony was so pissed off that Nintendo was getting all the credit for controllers that were not able to actually be controlled by functioning human beings. And this is where they were still pushing the cell broadband engine. So PlayStation 3 systems sell broadband engine, creating gaming experiences that were never before possible, yada, yada, yada. This is more PS3 propaganda, but here's some actual games. Resistance, Fall of Man. These were some launch titles, but some were also not launch. You know what? I think this was probably included in SKUs because it's already saying available now, so you probably wouldn't have this on the demo kiosks, which they were showing up in stores before the console actually came out. Ultimate Alliance, Gundam Crossfire, not a very good game there. Call of Duty, did I skip one? I did skip one. Untold Legends Dark Kingdom, Rainbow Six Vegas, Call of Duty 3, Full Auto 2 Battle Lines. Got MotorStorm there, personal favorite. Layer, I hate that game. I'm sorry, but the fact that I actually finished it is nuts. Heavenly Sword. And right there, Play Beyond, PlayStation 3. Now let's take a look at this GameStop EB Games catalog here, because this, we're gonna see some prices. Now let me just put that up right there, because this is actually, that actually has my address on that, so I'm not trying to keyframe some censoring, but yeah, let's open up this thing. So this was actually, because at the time, remember, they're still selling the PSP and the PlayStation 2 as well. And for a lot of folks, dare I say the vast majority, this was more interesting at the time than this. But welcome to the world of Sony. They do open with PlayStation 3. The $599 price tag, and some fairly inexpensive accessories, nothing too nutty. The memory card adapter was $14.99. That's actually quite rare now. If you want to buy that on eBay, the last time I checked, they were going for, you know, $50 to $100. So it really depends on the time of day and the seller. But you've got the Blu-ray remote. Of course, they still only had 6-axis available at the time for $50 and $24.99 for a component AV cable. Now, for many early adopters, you know, you're picking up either this or an HDMI cable, because the console never shipped with any kind of component or HDMI cables. So not only were you on the hook for this price, but you were also probably picking up something like this. And it should be always, I guess, pointed out that, you know, the $599 price tag is so infamous. It's high. By today's money, with, you know, accounting for inflation, you can get a basic understanding of how this was so much money. But even back then, it was still a bargain, so to speak, because Blu-ray players were commonly selling for about $1,000. So it's like, why would you not buy a PlayStation 3 if you were in the market for a Blu-ray player? Sure, that is certainly the case to be made. People always like to bring that up, even, you know, 15, 16 years later. Now here's where it's borderline ridiculous. So, you know, you've got the airflow cooler from, what is this, Pelican, for $40 that plugs into the top, and you can see how it mimics the PlayStation 3 design, right? So it basically extends the console. And then there's the intercooler from Nyko that plugs into the back, but $30-$40. I mean, what's you know, funny about these is that not only were the intercoolers never really good or useful for consoles, they, you know, every console would have a third-party, you know, intercooler type thing. Not only were they never good, but back then, I mean, these were the prices. And nowadays, if you want it to do that, if you want to buy one of those useless things, you know, you can buy the cheap stuff on eBay, which are really just flipped items from some sort of Chinese manufacturer that'll sell them in bulk, right? But even once they're being flipped on Amazon, they'll sell for like $15, $20 or something, or they'll have the kind of you know, they're like sort of goofy where they extend out and they've got placement for games and a few USB ports, extra ports, and you can plug it in for charging controllers and whatnot. But this, you were, you know, dropping 40, 30 bucks just to, you know, do damage to the console. And then an AC charger for $25. Now this is egregious. GameStop, a 24 karat gold plated connector, HDMI cable for $70. Now this actually wasn't uncommon back then. I remember it was, I mean, that was kind of the thing, right? Like if you walked into a Best Buy in 2006, I think all the HDMI cables, and they would try to sell the whole like, oh, it's gold plated, so it's just gonna make a finer picture quality, which was, you know, but all of them were like at a minimum $40 something, so they were usually a bit higher than that. And then you've got this other one right here, premium HD component for $50. Again, 24 karat gold plated connectors, but the official Sony solution that's going to get the job done, you know, 25 bucks. That's still a lot of money, but considering, you know, when it comes to buying any kind of cable that you need nowadays, it's another Amazon eBay thing. Like you can get any cable that you really reasonably need for a very cheap price, and as long as it's not some sort of weird proprietary thing. And then some controllers as well. You know, got the GameStop one that's wired for $30, a charging base, no price on that, and your standard Mad Catz controller condoms for $10. That's actually not too off base from controller condoms nowadays. But we got some games. The game pricing, $59.99. This was when games saw a price jump. Now, this was the price jump we got in 2005 to 2006. PS2 games, GameCube, Xbox, they were, you know, primarily 50 bucks. So, you know, this was, I don't really remember that. I don't know if this was, we can chalk this up to, you know, the internet not being nearly as big, and that sounds weird to say even back then, but like, you know, there wasn't as many people online, and there weren't many sort of places like, you know, like there wasn't a Twitter, right, or a Reddit where you can see all these comments all funnel into one place. There were still a lot of enthusiasts, smaller niche websites. You weren't really exposed to that much commentary on, you know, outrage, I guess. So I'm sure, you know, there was certainly a lot of, you know, I guess debate or arguing going on about the price increase back then. But even still, it's something where we had this price then going into PlayStation 4, and then we nowadays have the $70 debacle, right? That, and also a sort of, on the opposite spectrum, a race to the bottom with free-to-play MMO stuff and then the very aggressive monetization, but still interesting to see. So you've got MotorStorm Resistance again, F1 Championship Edition, Genji Days of the Blade, MLB 07, NBA 07, got Layer, that's probably, I mean, this is GameStop, right? So they're going to be pushing pre-orders, Ridge Racer 7, College Hoops 2K7, Def Jam Icon, The Godfather. Either these were pre-orders or this was maybe something that came out a little bit after. Maybe this was a 2007 brochure, maybe like Q1, Q2. Call of Duty 3, Virtua Tennis 3, Armored Core 4. Yeah, Armored Core. And here we're at the PSP section. We're not necessarily here for this, but sure, why not? Let's check it real quick. We have some PSP accessories, a little UMD case. The system itself still selling for 200 bucks, or you can get a PSP entertainment pack, which at the time they were giving you a TV and also a UMD movie, which is Lords of Dogtown. So shout out to anybody that bought that bundle, and you got one banger movie, which I've never seen, so I have no idea if that was a good movie or not. Oh my god, Speakerfly SS speakers, those look ridiculous. Some PSP skins. Did anybody ever order a skin from decalgrill.com? Because I actually did. I ordered a sort of purplish, weird looking one. I have a picture of my PSP that looked so dumb and decked out, like I thought it was cool to rice out my PSP. And I put an aftermarket stick on it, and the picture that I took was a picture of my PSP displaying a picture of an old dog that I had. I think. I'm sure I'm displaying the picture and describing it to you right now. Back to the brochure, though. Check out these prices for some PSP SanDisk Memory Stick Pro Duo. Sometimes I just like to say that out all, not one word, but say the whole thing because it's such a mouthful. But You can get 512 MB megabytes for $34.99. Some people don't like when I say MB. I used to say that as a kid, and like I just stuck to it. $49.99 GB gigabytes, 2.0 right there, $74.99. Or you can get 4 gigs for $130. I had this one, and I don't remember paying that. I think I waited for it to go on sale. This was also pretty interesting right here, the VMate video memory card reader, which lets you record programs, and it, I guess, converts it into a PSP-friendly file that lets you then watch it on your PSP. Never had that. Got some PSP games for 40 bucks. Killzone Liberation, Ratchet & Clank, Size Matters, some first-party titles there. SOCOM, Twisted Metal, MLB, NBA. What is that, 2.5 page? No, yeah, 3 pages or so of first-party games. Fast and the Furious and Pimp My Ride, so right away we're sort of falling off a cliff with this third-party stuff. And PlayStation 2. This is something we'll probably never see ever again, as console manufacturers price down their systems this aggressively near the tail end of their life cycle. And even at the time, this was not really, like the PS2 still had some serious legs at this point in its life. But, you know, Sony still sells new PS4s as of right now. I think they're still not completely out of, like they haven't ceased manufacturing, but PS4s are still sold MSRP $299. You know, some would argue, why would you not price it all the way down, like sell a $200 PS4 or one for $150, and just give it another booster shot for another 2-3 years? But I don't think when it comes to the bill of materials and the demand, the economics just aren't there anymore. Not like how they were, you know, back in 2006, where this, you know, a $130 PS2 still had a lot of utility and demand. So just something we're not going to see, like, probably ever again. But that really speaks volumes about the PlayStation 2. Some third-party junk. God of War 2, so that was a big deal, right? I mean, I think for a lot of people, PlayStation 3 came out and it was like, whatever, I'm playing God of War 2. A game that came out after the PlayStation 3. SOCOM, US Navy SEALs, Combined Assault, Rogue Galaxy. More ATV, more MLB, SingStar with the microphones. Always play SingStar with the mics. None of this phone app garbage. The original God of War, some greatest hits titles. A God of War 2 system skin. More third-party stuff. Thrillville for $40. And the Grand Theft Auto trilogy. I think so many copies of this now are like these, on the back of these games it'll say part of a set, which means it's from this. So they were always like parted out at that point, and usually if you find a used Grand Theft Auto, it's more than likely from this set, because they sold a lot of those. NBA, Ghost Rider, Resident Evil 4 for $20 Black Label, and Okami. And God of War 2 as an ad on the end. Now, let's check out this 2007 holiday gaming guide here. So this is was really addressed to me from PlayStation Underground. I'm going to try and not move that so much, so I've got to keyframe it. There we go. Here's the Play Beyond little thing they gave you here. Now this is super cool because I never used this, which is a Best Buy coupon. So they were doing a partnership back then. $10 off any PlayStation 3 title, an in-store coupon that expired January 31st, 2008. So I never ended up using this, but hey, I have it now. And there you go, PlayStation 3. So at the time, they had 2 models that they were selling. It was the 40 gigabyte Spider-Man 3 movie pack, the console that did not have any backwards compatibility. So this was a brand new SKU with the 2 USB ports and a few other concessions. But for a lot of people, they were still buying this beauty right here, the 80 gigabyte MotorStorm bundle. And this is also where a lot of MotorStorm copies in circulation came from, this bundle right here. So on the back with that not for resale, it usually came from that console right there. And so again, kind of going, I mean, this was a year later, right? And still on page 2, and this was right in the middle of the HD DVD versus Blu-ray format wars. So look at this, page 4, they're selling Blu-ray movies, not Blu-ray as a storage mechanism for games, Blu-ray movies, and also discussing multiple media formats. So still at the time, a year later, pushing the multimedia functionality of PlayStation 3. Right here, multifunctionality, look and listen, DVD, CD-ROM, play your MP3s, PSP functionality as well. The DualShock 3 at the time. Yep, the DualShock 3 did come out, so they're selling that right now as well, along with the motion functionality, 6-axis. And there's the XMB, that nice, beautiful blue XMB that helps me sleep at night. And where they still had this, the original web-based PlayStation Store. It just looks so... It's nostalgic, but at the same time, it's so basic and almost has a Fisher-Price-esque feel to it with the font they would use for labeling if it was a video or a demo or a bundle or a game, as you can see. But that was the web-based store, and they were advertising not only Warhawk, one of the first disc-based retail games that day and date also launched on PSN, so as a full digital title. I do remember a lot of the conversation back then was everyone, freaking out like, oh my god, a disc game that's completely digital, it's going to be so much space, it's going to be so big, and then I think it was like 800 megabytes or something, so it wasn't a huge deal. But I remember that was like I'm pretty sure it was 800, but considering Blu-ray discs were 55 gigabytes for total storage, it's like, oh, well, how much space is that game taking up on a Blu-ray, and I'm going to have to download the whole thing. But yeah, that was pretty noteworthy for Warhawk back then. Everyday Shooter, this was made by, I think, one person. That was kind of the cool thing about that game at the time. Loco Roco, High Velocity Bowling, Pain, some of these cool, not micro games, but smaller PSN titles that were very unique to PlayStation at the time. And then we're getting some full-page ads for Ratchet & Clank Tools of Destruction, Uncharted Nathan Drake, Uncharted Drake's Fortune, I want to say the Nathan Drake collection, NBA 08, The Eye of Judgment. I love that game. It's so unique. Make sure I'm not skipping a page here. Heavenly Sword again, because the game was either not out yet, yeah, available now, but that one came out a little bit later, 2007, so yeah, considering it's a Holiday 07 buying guide, this came out at that time. Layer and Folklore. Got Time Crisis 4. Now you don't see Time Crisis 4 too often with the gun con there. I gotta get that game. Haze, who could forget Haze? We've looked at a lot of these games recently with that new series we're doing. Unreal Tournament 3, this was also kind of a big deal too, because this was a console game that supported mods, so you could load up a USB drive with some mods, plug it into your PS3, and then start playing user-generated content. Rock Band and Turok, Call of Duty 4, Guitar Hero 3, Tony Hawk's Proving Ground, Kane and Lynch, Need for Speed, SmackDown vs. Raw, and this almost last page here, the PlayStation Eye and the iCreate software, which was free on the PlayStation Store. Basically, it was just like a photo booth, right? Max photo booth, just mess around, have some cool filters and things like that. And then the final page right there. Hey, just so you know, we still sell the PSP, and there's remote play with that as well. And then on the back, more XMB waves. So there it is, PlayStation 3's early ads. Wasn't really as life-changing as they were trying to make it seem. Oddly enough, for me it was, for very different reasons related to this YouTube channel, but I digress because I think that's not really the case for most others. So it didn't really, do your laundry and cook for you and bear your children, but what it did do is provide years of fun gaming experiences at a initially very high cost. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you all in the next one.